Hey everyone, and welcome to another FME Fireside with the DE team here at Abley. Today we've got Chris, Todd, and myself, Hamish, and we're just going to have a bit of a chat around certifications and what certifications we've got, why we think certifications are a good idea, and what sort of our experience with getting them has been over the last few years.
Yeah, 10 years.
Well, 10 years for some of us. So we'll start off with Chris. And Chris, when did you first get certified?
Well, I have only gone through it once, and that was 2021.
So pretty recently.
Pretty recently,
yeah. So,
but not since the changes.
Not since the changes. Yeah. So at that time, I guess what the certification process was, you had a kind of a sit-down exam, which was open book, and you just kind of work through that. You know, as long as you get enough questions right, which was not too bad. I actually learned some stuff during that exam as well.
I think I did as well, yeah.
Most useful things, you can hold down control and select model transformers to inspect all of them together.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned something, this is going completely off topic already, but I learned something similar around how you can control click all the ports and automatically link up transformers.
Oh, you mean
so you don't have to with the connectors?
With the connectors.
So I learned that from the
test.
Not from the test, from FME Academy.
Oh yeah. So
back on track.
Either way, you're thinking of everything, then the exam comes up with some things and like, oh, I can do that. Anyway, and so I do also submit at the time of the process where you submit 2 workspaces and get, I guess, what are they called? Not peer review, but kind of
audited by.
Two referees kind of had to kind of
make
it have the person who did the work for, so they can say, well, how good it was. And so that's when I was at the Crash City Council. So both workspaces were part of the same kind of asset management project. One of them was the integration between GIS to the info asset system, and so the highlight of that workspace was kind of how it was all done without blocking. So everything was all ordered in a certain way, and a lot of transformers were kind of structured so that it would run through the whole workspace without blocking. And then the other one was just a complicated kind of pipe aggregation to try and group water supply pipes and wastewater pipes together into kind of like logical sets that they would be replaced together in the event of a construction project. So typically, you replace a whole street at the same time, not single pipes at a time. That sort of aggregation
to be more efficient and better use of money. And you've just got the desktop, but you're looking at getting server as well.
I am looking at getting server this year. So it is just the desktop certification. I probably could have got it several years earlier, but I just kind of
didn't get around
put it off, and I was like, I was at council, right? And so I didn't need to.
Didn't have a reason to.
Didn't have a reason to. So
yeah. And then Todd, you've been around for a while.
Yeah, I've been around for a while, but I'm actually going through desktop renewal at the moment, which I'll get into a bit later. But my first time doing the desktop certification was similar. Supplying workspaces through, doing a test, providing referees and stuff, and that's, like I say, probably about 10 years ago. And at the time, there weren't many people that were certified. So I can't remember how many were in New Zealand, but it wasn't many. And I remember trying to figure out what I was even going to supply through from the workbench side, because I remember I took a chunk out of some work I'd done for Brisbane City Council and packaged that up so it was had some inputs and outputs, because it was smack bang in the middle of a much wider process. And so I had to make sure that it actually kind of made sense with what I was passing in. But I remember getting it back. It was Mark Island who actually tested that back in the day.
Gosh. Well, I'm not sure if Mark's watching this. That was probably a long time ago, because I don't think he does much in certifications now.
No. So these days we keep Ryan and a few others busy. But getting that back, and I was like, yes, got it. And of course, a few years later, I did FME server certification, which again was running a few, well, in Lanny's cases, was running those scenarios.
Yeah.
And when I've renewed that, the scenario's been similar but slightly different. So it's not.
It's updated.
Yeah,
Definitely
yeah.
some,
And
developed further.
actually, this is actually probably shows you how far FME Server's gone. When I first did my certification in FME Server, you had to make lots of little configuration changes in the back end. Now, all those same configuration changes were in the front end.
Yeah.
So that really made me realise the difference that had occurred over about 3 years, and how much that had advanced and how much you can do with FME Server now with relative ease.
Going on a complete tangent, I've noticed the same. I'm currently going through an exercise installing 2022.1, and the last big server install I did was on 2019, and you have to make so few config file changes now because it's all either in the installer or embedded in the UI.
Yep.
So it's changing pretty rapidly.
Yeah, and so at the moment it's about, for me, going and getting my renewal of my desktop certification, which of course is now slightly different. You know, we're going into proctored exams. There's a more tied to the FME Academy, which I'm slowly working my way through, and you know, just I need to just dedicate a bit more time to actually getting it done.
You need to find the time
Yeah,
to get it done.
exactly.
Yeah.
And what about you, Hamish?
Yeah, so I was trying to think of roughly the date. I remember when I got the email saying that I got it. It was Anzac Day, or very close to Anzac Day, and I was down at my partner's grandparents at the time. But I think that was about 2018, so the middle of 2018. I'm pretty sure I got my desktop certification because I've been through one renewal already. It might have been 2019, but it was definitely in sort of that time. And yeah, I had a very similar problem to you, Todd, was trying to figure out exactly what I should submit, because at that time, you know, I was still learning a lot, and I was like, well, is this going to be good enough? Is this going to be appropriate for the certification process? And what I ended up submitting was a process that I built to automatically update ArcGIS Online web maps. And I can't remember exactly what it did, but I do recall halfway through, the physical workbench would actually pause, and it would provide you with a dynamically generated UI element that you could then go and select what layers and stuff that you wanted to change or do something with. So yeah, I managed to, with help from Takashi on the forums, managed to figure out how you can actually pause the translation and generate this UI. And saying that, I've never done it again, but it was a cool wee thought experiment. And then a few years ago, I got the server certification, and much like what Todd was saying, you get given a big list of, well, not a big list, I think there was 3 or 4 main tasks, and you had to go through and prepare the machine and do those tasks and run workbenches and provide the outputs. And then probably about 2 years ago now, I got my training certification. And again, that was off the back of, we've been running some internal training within the business, just to sort of bring some of the non-technical staff up to speed and make them aware of what we actually do and what FME is. And then off the back of that, I also did some similar training with some of our clients, just at a bit more technical level. And then that sort of all fed into me getting my training certification. And for me, the next one sort of off the box will be to get that professional level. And big shout out to Gavin, who isn't actually here today. So, but he got the professional certification earlier this week. Business professional, sorry, yeah. And I think that makes him the first in New Zealand to have all 4 of the certifications. Yeah,
I don't know. Haven't looked up.
Which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, at the personal level, we've all got our certifications, and that sort of shows us, or shows other people, that we're invested and we're quite knowledgeable. But in terms of, what does that mean? What do you think that means for like the company and our clients when we put something forward and we say we've got a team of certified professionals, what benefit does that give to our customers?
I think it's around. Well, it's in saying that you're you meet a certain threshold. I mean, it's not necessarily going to say that you're the world's best in FME or anything like that, but it says that you know how FME works and you know how to utilise the tool. I mean, there's a few things it doesn't answer. Like, I wouldn't say it doesn't tell you that you know how to handle specific formats or different authentications and
Or
things.
necessarily even problem solve?
Or problems. It depends. Yeah, some level of problem
Some level
solving.
of problem solving.
But it does give you that kind of base. And I think, as you mentioned, it shows that you're invested in it. You don't just go, I'm going to get a certification for the sake of it.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably a bit of reassurance for people. And for the people that are getting it, it's nice to know that you sit amongst a group of others that
Like-minded, similar skill level.
correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, like, Chris, I'm going to single you out here, but you've been the most recent to get desktop certification.
Yep.
And you said you could have gotten it earlier and it just wasn't something that you'd really put time towards. What was that final push for you to get your certification?
I mean, if I'm honest, it was because I wanted a job here.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've been working with FME for like 5 years, 6 years at that point. And it's like, well, if I'm going to do it as a professional kind of job, then it's like, well,
Might as well.
it's about time. Like,
make it official, basically.
yeah, because it's like, I know what I'm doing with FME, but it's like, how do I it's an easy way to convey to somebody that I know that.
Yeah.
Correct, and I think that's a really good point as well for people looking for jobs, because if we put our FME job here, the HR, the managers that first come across those applications, it's going to be one of the ticks that gets you into that kind of next stage.
Yeah. So it's going to say that you've set the base level here. Now we want to see how far above that base level you are.
Correct. And we will expect well above that base level. But it's it just gives you that little step up above the rest.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you mentioned, Todd, that it's tied in quite heavily with FME Academy, and of course that's a whole topic in itself.
Yes.
But how have you found that working through the academy to sort of, again, cement and prove your skills?
I think one of the things that I've kind of when I've looked at the FME Academy and done some of those things, I'm still like, is that a trick question?
That's what I was baiting for, because I know you've had a few of those.
Yeah, I'm like almost overthinking the question, going, well, you've said that, but I know that you can do something over here that will allow you to do this, but then going, oh, okay, no, this is...
You just sort of need to distill it down and think, actually, this is probably more targeted to someone with a year's worth of experience rather than 10 years worth of experience.
Yeah, 15.
15.
That's scary.
Showing your age now.
Way longer. But it's good. I think it probably does what SAFE really wants it to do, which is to get a more holistic view of everything that someone knows, rather than just getting a small portion or being able to answer a few questions.
Yeah.
You can kind of see that they've had to put in the effort to go through the academy. They've spent the time to do it, and that they understand a whole different range of things.
And even old dog, new trick. I mean, I'm not as old as you, but I learned something new doing some FME Academy stuff the other day, and that's cool.
Well, to be perfectly honest, like, I hadn't used the compare process.
Oh, yeah, the workbench compare.
Yes,
yep.
as much as what those the processes took me through. So, I'd opened it up and done it a couple of times and looked at it and gone, oh, yeah, okay, that looks cool, might come back if I need it. But actually, going through the FME Academy, it was a bit more, it took me to a level that I hadn't used. And saying that, I haven't had to use it in the past, but when I next jump into it and actually have to use it, now I know all the little bits and pieces around it.
Yeah. Oh, that's very interesting. Closing thoughts? Any closing thoughts, Chris, on certifications or any gotchas, any lessons learnt?
No, I mean, as I said, I'm going to be looking at the service certification this year, so
stay tuned.
I'll
Stay tuned for your name at the bottom of
Mark's. I haven't spent any
Mark's.
time with the FME Academy yet, so it sounds interesting.
Well, I think the thing I'm interested in, and we'll find out in soon enough time, is the whole proctored exam.
It's going to be. You're going to be going through that.
It's going to be just a slight different change. I'm not worried about that or anything like that, but it's just, all the previous tests have been done. All my previous tests have been done in a similar way.
Yeah.
So this is a slight change. So
something
it's
different.
something new.
Yeah. Something new and exciting.
Hmm.
Oh, well, thank you for tuning in to another FME Fireside with the DE team here at Abley. So it's Chris, Todd, and myself, Hamish, and we will see you next time.